Welcome to Kimsey Software's MetalTrax training series. This is video 5, setting up MetalTrax, inventory categories, and items by Kyle Kimsey.
This is the 5th video in the MetalTrax training series, video 5, setting up inventory categories and items. From our main menu, we click on the inventory control icon. Underneath that, we go over to the master files and go to items and categories, and we're going to start with categories. Now, many of you will have already given us your categories and items in a spreadsheet, and we would have pulled those items and categories in for you already. However, this still will be a good training for if you need to add a category in the future or add an item to your existing database. In this case, I'm going to add 3 items. I'm going to put in a hot rolled angle, 3 categories, a hot rolled angle category, a hot rolled plate category, as well as an aluminum 6061 round category. You can also set up coil, tubing, and various other items, of course, but for the constraints we have in the video and the time, we will only set up those 3 categories. We're going to begin by clicking on the New button. Your category ID can be up to 20 characters, so in this case, we're going to make it a little bit self-explanatory, where I'm just going to say hot rolled angle, and the category name can be hot rolled angle as well. I'm going to make this homogeneous. Now, just to describe at this point the difference between tagged and homogeneous, you notice I have tagged, homogeneous, and non-inventory. Tagged inventory is if you want to keep track of heat numbers and lot numbers throughout the system. If you are tracking heats and you want to print your MTRs associated with a specific lot or tag, you will want to make tagged item your standard category. A standard tagged category. However, if you're doing homogeneous, many people do like their angle might be homogeneous because when they bring their angle in, they throw it in a bin in the warehouse. When a customer orders, they just pull it out of the bin. They don't care what heat number or what tag number or lot number that specific angle belongs to. So in this case, for our hot rolled angle, we're going to say homogeneous standard. The difference between standard with remnants and no standard size, no remnants, is standard sizes will keep track of your standard size, and any remnant underneath that item will just be in total footage or pounds. Homogeneous with remnants would track any remnants that you have besides your standard sizes. So for example, if you had 100 pieces, 20 feet, you pull out one of those pieces, you now have 99 pieces of 20 foot standard sizes. But if you then took that 20 foot and you cut it out for an order that was 18 feet and restocked the 2-footer, you would actually see that 2-foot rem in your stock. With the standard, you wouldn't. You just see it would show a total footage or total pounds of rems. With homogeneous, no standard size, no rems, that means it doesn't track anything but total poundage. So you wouldn't even track your 100 pieces, 20 feet. You may just track 8,000 pounds in your item ID. So in this case, we're going to do homogeneous standard. I'm going to say it's a length item. My stocked by in this case is going to be stocked by the pounds and costed by the pound. Again, you could stock it by the foot and cost it by the pound or hundredweight, but for these purposes, I'm just going to stock it by the pound and cost it by the pound since that's very common. Default order says when your customer is ordering this, are they going to order it and ask you for a certain number of pieces typically or pounds? In this case, I'm going to say pieces. Remember, it's just a default. It can be changed on the sales order. I'm now at the point where I can put in a GL account. I'm going to click on the GL account and I'm going to do lookups. So I'm going to say my sales account. This is asking you what account should you hit when you sell a hot rolled angle underneath this category to a customer. So I'm going to do a lookup and I'm going to type in sales. And I'm going to do sales as my 5,000. Same with returns. I can just start typing in returns and allowances, choose my returns and allowances. For my cost of sales, I do a lookup, type in cost of sales, and I choose cost of goods sold. My inventory asset, if I knew it, I could type it in, or if not, I could do a lookup and as well type in inventory asset. I'm now done with the category. I hit save, and I can then input another category if I wanted to do the sales and returns accounts for another category. But I'm going to close it down. I'm now going to save the category and move on to my next category. For this category, I'm going to click N for new and do hot rolled plate. In this case, many people track their plate as tagged. So they keep track of heat numbers and tags throughout the system. So that's what I'm going to do in my setup. It's going to be tagged. It's not a length item. It's an area plate item, stocked by the pound, and I'm going to cost it by the hundredweight. And then I'm going to also put the default order factor in pieces. For time constraints right now, under your GL account for the setup, since we've already know those, I can just type in my GL accounts. Again, of course, you could look it up, but we're just going to type it in and hit save. I'm now done with my hot rolled plate category. And the next one, you notice I click on the New button. Just to remind you, remember Save, New, Edit, Delete, Cancel, and Print. And then this is our lookup. So in this case, my category is going to be a 6061 round bar. Maybe I want to make that as my category name. 6061 round bar. Again, this is tagged. I'm going to do it as a length item, but for my stock by factor this time, I'm going to say stock it by the pound, but cost it by the foot. Default order is going to be in pieces. And then again, I didn't draw your attention to it, but the fact that these default to the items are taxable and that they're discountable. If you have categories that are not taxable, just make sure you check that off. The GL accounts, I'm going to type in my GL accounts again. And I'm going to hit save. I've now set up all three categories. Again, you can also create categories for coil, for sheet, for tubing, for rebar, and various other things. But for training purposes, we will stick with these three. Once I close down the category, I'm now ready to put in the items. I again click on items and I come down to the item. Again, remember to click on the New button. Now our item IDs can be numeric, alphanumeric. They can be both alphanumeric and numeric. In this case, I'm going to make mine fairly intuitive. So for my angle, I'm going to say AN for angle, and then 1118 would be my 1 inch by 1 inch by 1/8 inch hot rolled angle. Again, the item ID can be anything you want. You can be very much more descriptive if you want in the item ID, or you leave it fairly simple. In my category, if I wanted to do a lookup, I could just hit my binoculars or my F2, and I could choose my hot rolled angle. In this case, for some of your homogeneous or some of your length items, you can fill in OD and wall and ID. In this case, it's not really applicable to angles, so in the pounds per foot, I can just type in my 0.38 pounds per foot. Now at this point, I'm going to go over the mill cost. The mill cost is the replacement cost that this product would cost if you bought from the mill, and so I'm going to say 40 cents a pound. I'm now ready to put in my standard width and lengths. I'm going to click on standard width and length. At this point, I'm going to say new, and these are standard 20 footers, so you notice I put in 20 footers, and it will be a low length of 20 and a high length of 20. My description at this point can be 20 feet, whatever you want to actually print on any of the purchase and sales documents. My reorder point is, I'm going to put in my reorder point is to reorder at 100 pieces, but my desired level's at 150. You'll see later on in the other training videos where if you ever dip below this reorder point, it's going to tell you to order up to the desired level. So if I fell to 95 pieces, it would then tell me to order 55. The reorder increment's going to be in one piece. We can also track bundles if you want to say the certain number of pieces per bundle. In this case, the 20 foot is also going to be my default size. That means when I'm on the sales order or the purchase order, that's going to bring in as the default. I can also set up another standard size if I want by clicking on the New button. And if I wanted to set up a standard 40 footer, I could do that as well. That's not going to be my default, so I just save it. If I mistyped, you notice in this case, it says reorder cannot be 0 if the desired level is greater than 0. So I make sure that I put in a reorder increment of 1 piece. No default size, and then I save. At that point, I am now ready and done with my angle. We will, in the next training video, we will talk about pricing. So I will save this and click on the New, and I'm going to put in my next item. My next item is going to be plate. And I'm just going to say PL, and let's say for plate, then I'm going to do 1/4 inch. Maybe I'm just going to make it simple and say 1/4 inch hot rolled plate. I could then again do a lookup or just choose or type in hot rolled plate. My thickness, I'm going to say my thickness, if it's 0.25, I type in my thickness, and my pounds per square foot, you notice it prompts for pounds per square foot instead of pounds per foot, I'm going to type in 10.2096. For my mill cost, I can come over here and I can put in a mill cost. If my mill cost was 39 cents a pound, I would obviously notice this one is tracked per hundredweight, so I'd want to say $39 per hundredweight. For our standard size in this case, I'm going to say new, and let's set up two standard size of 48 by 96. And on the description, make sure you put it as you would want it to appear on the documents. I'm not going to set any reorder defaults this time. You know how to do that. I'm just going to say default size. And then we're also going to do a 60 inch by 120. And I'm going to say 60 inch by 120 inch and save it. I've now set up my standard sizes and my items for plate and angle. Our last one, I click on new, is going to be our 6061 round bar. So let's say in this case I'm doing a 6061 round, and maybe I want to use a decimal for when I set up my item. So maybe I'm doing 0.500 in this case. Remember last time I did the 1/4, or in this case, let's say I want to just do 0.5, and this is going to be half inch 6061 round bar. That's going to be what's going to print on my documents. So when I do a lookup, I choose my round bar. If you wanted to put in an OD or a wall, you can. You don't have to, but it will allow you to track that later and look up for that if you want to. Your pounds per foot, in this case, my pounds per foot is 2.233224, and you can get those out of a Jorgensen book or a Ryerson book. For my mill cost, for my foot here, let's say my mill cost on this is $2 a foot. And I'm now at the stage where I can say standard width and length. And I click on new. Now low length, now this time I'm going to set up both a standard size and I'm also going to do a random size. So let's say I have a standard 12-footer for these bars, and I put standard 12 feet. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to set up a random. Now these randoms, let's say I have 21-foot randoms. I could say my low length of 18 feet and a high length of 24 feet with a typical length of 21 foot. And I may want to put something like this, 21-foot random length. You'll see later on how that allows you to purchase or sell anything within that range as a 21-foot random length. Let's make this our default. I'm now going to save this and close this down. That's setting up just the straight setup for your item IDs for MetalTrax. You can also, the last thing we'll cover here is the line item notes. If you click on line item notes, you can put anything underneath this, anything that you put in these line item notes, the internal and external notes would print on all your documents. The internal notes would print on, let's say, your pick tickets or your pickup, or your internal orders for your purchase orders. And your external notes would be on all your external documents. If anything you put in here would put right underneath that item description on any of your documents. So if you feel like 50 characters is not enough, feel free to put them in here. When you're all done, we're going to save, and that is the video for setting up your categories and items. Please feel free to view our other videos. The next video will be video 6, setting up pricing.